Today's guest is a former Major League outfielder, a current MLB agent with the number one agency in the world, the Boras Corp, and someone I had the honor of competing against, playing with, and sharing a locker room with more than once. His story is different. He wasn't handed the golden path. This dude carved one. And now he's in a position to protect, advocate, and serve the next generation of players in an industry that often does the opposite. Braden Bishop, welcome to the Nine Hole, brother. What's going on?
Oh, man. Grateful to be here with you right now. It's been far too long. Far too long.
No kidding, dude. No kidding, brother. The pleasure's all mine, man. It's awesome to have you here. Obviously, like our background together, dude. You had gotten drafted in 2015 out of UW, and so you were thrust into the Mariners minor league organization in high regard, dude. There was a huge buzz about you. I had already spent 2 years in the minor league system. I'm trying to figure it out, dude. And here you come. Everybody is like, yo, this guy's nasty in the outfield. This guy can run. This guy's insane. Obviously, like getting some eyes on you, bro. I was blown away by it, dude. The glove, everything you were able to do in the outfield, it was incredible, bro. So what we're doing here is we're aiming at benefiting the next generation of ball players, dude. The path you had and what you're currently doing now is something that's awesome, dude. So I'd love to just take everybody through it, bro. Grateful for your time, dude. Man, let's get into it if you don't mind, dude. Let's rewind back, bro. When did you realize that you could play at the next level? Like, when did it click for you that yo, I might be a big leaguer here, bro? Was there like a certain instance where it clicked?
I think the biggest thing for me was when you're in high school and you have tools, you're just going to, be kind of on that upper end of whatever league you're in, wherever, whatever region you're playing in. Obviously, the summer circuit was not the same then as it is now. So it's not like you were out, playing on a national scale as they do now. So I didn't really have like that early inclination of like, oh, this is real. I knew I was not ready out of high school. Like I probably would have been done playing very shortly after knowing what I know now. But I would say it was like that my freshman year of college, not playing much. When I did play, it was just embarrassing. Like I was just not strong enough. I could run a little, but it wasn't like I was at this like game changing speed like you. And then I would play defense, right, and make the smart play. So I was like, okay, I have stuff I
Appreciate
gotta
that.
work on. I gotta work on. And then that summer, really like getting a little bit bigger, stronger, faster, like everybody wants to do, but actually executing on it. And then coming back my sophomore year, getting an opportunity to start, and it's like sometimes the window is small. And I loved your video the other day. Like it was literally one of my favorite videos I ever seen about everybody works hard, but like when you have the opportunity to produce, you have to produce. Like, like yeah,
Mm,
you want to make people feel good in this game, right? Like, oh, that no pressure, no stress, be present. But at the same time, there's a few times in your career, maybe even once, that you have to execute. You have to. And that was kind of the year for me that I like
100%.
put it together. Hit leadoff for UW, and we went to a regional, awesome experience. But that was kind of when I was like, okay, I see that like I gotta match a certain level of work with a certain level of production, and if I can do that consistently, then I might have a chance at this thing. So that was like the first time. The second time was I got drafted, went to Everett, which was short season at the time. And like the first 8 games, same deal as my freshman year, just getting absolutely carved by some of these Latin guys. And
Yeah,
then
throwing 100.
right. And so that was kind of like that next, like, okay, I have to adjust now, like real time. And then adjust it,
Mm.
whatever. And then obviously from there, you have the thought of like, I can do this, but there's many times where you question that.
What's going on, everybody? We as baseball players, we as athletes, we all have something in common that we all share with one another. At some point, our careers are going to come to an end. whether we play 15 years in the league or whether we don't make it past high school or college. This is called the Money Playbook. So this teaches financial concepts for student athletes, for professional athletes. It's got a bunch of financial concepts in there that I didn't learn until I was done playing. Go on over to Amazon and check it out. It's called The Money Playbook. It's written by Mark Tepper, who is an NFLPA registered investment advisor. So he has worked with a plethora of professional athletes. Like I said, go to Amazon. We'll leave the link in the bio and the description of this episode. It's a must-have. Check it out. Let me know what you think, dude. Absolute, bro. So we had mentioned, the speed aspect of stuff. Obviously, like that was a tool for me, man. That was something that I had to like double down on in order to maximize your career, dude. So flipping back on it, obviously, like when you're out in the outfield, bro, you can run like a gazelle. Like game speed is insane, but when we're looking at it statistically, right, from the numbers aspect of stuff, you weren't the fastest, right? You didn't hit the most home runs, bro. You weren't 6'7", right, like Aaron Judge, man. So in your mind, in order for you to maximize your career, bro, like what made you dangerous?
Well, I think you said it perfect. You got to be honest first and foremost. And I think everybody wants to be a five tool player, but the reality is there's very few of them. Like you may touch five tools, but to actually be a five tool guy is very, very hard to do. Um, because when we're talking about like a five tool guy, like you better do everything above average. And like it's just hard, right? Like you, one, that's extremely God given. And two, you got to focus on your strengths more than you do your weaknesses. And for me, it was like I knew I could run, but not like I don't think people really understand how fast you are. Like when you run, it's like everybody in the ballpark stops to watch. When I run, people just go, "Oh, that looks pretty." Like it's not. It's just like a different level of speed, right? So like everybody's going to have a different level of tool, obviously, how they grade it. So, like, I knew I could run a little, but I knew I could play defense really well. So, it was like, how do I match the two, to be able to, like, okay, if I take a good jump and I'm fast, like I have a good opportunity to make one, the routine play, but then two, when you got to stretch a little bit to make that highlight reel, you're able to do it. So match those two. So really kind of elevated the speed a little bit um, because the defense was a little better than I could run. And then on the hitting side, I had to be honest, like there's probably never going to be power in here, like you got to call it how it is, right? Like maybe if I run into
Buying into the role, dude.
right, right, right. And it's like,
Buying into the role is crazy.
exactly, because at the end of the day, again, it goes back to like the window could be very, very small to make it to the big leagues. And like, if I'm searching my whole career to try to be a five tool guy, I might miss the window because I was never ready to capitalize on what they needed at that time, and it's like,
Mm.
I didn't get drafted to hit homers. I didn't get drafted, to hit 350 with a 950 OPS. I got drafted to get on base, be a tough out, and then make plays on defense. And then at the end of the day,
Mm.
can you get your manager's trust? And so those were kind of like my big
Ooh.
things of like just being aware enough and honest enough with myself that like I got to get on base. I have to make the smart play, and I got to play the shit out of defense.
Absolute, dude. Absolute. That trust, man. That trust is crazy. That's something like as I was developing and growing in the game, the baseball IQ stuff, that's something I really had to wrap my head around, man. Professional baseball, obviously, like the higher up you go, the crazier it is, man, the more cutthroat it is, bro. I love it. It's wild. Dude, what so we were fortunate enough to make it to the big leagues, dude. We
Mhm.
were fortunate enough to make it. Okay, everything that we had done, there was one goal in mind, right? We were fortunate enough to achieve it, dude. For me, the stars obviously had to align. I'm sure insane stars had to align for you to get there as well, just like it does for everybody,
Yeah.
dude. Like that's what I feel like a lot of people don't understand the most about making it to the big leagues, dude. Just like what you were talking about, that window, dude. Like providing value in a certain manner at a certain time for a certain organization, bro. It is absolutely insane. That's the stars in my mind, like
Mhm.
having to align, dude. What do you think that's the craziest thing, like the biggest, most glaring thing that most people like don't understand about making it, dude?
Absolutely. Then it's hard because unless you are really in it, you can't really be told, to be honest. You got to feel that, and you also got to see it. Like
Mm.
I think you should have made it to the big leagues with the Mariners, right? Like I thought you produced enough. You show. I mean, how many times did you steal 50 bases in a year? It's like what else? You get to a point where it's like, what else do I need to show for them to give me a chance? And so and then all of a sudden you're out of that organization in another one, and you're like, wait a minute, I thought my vision of my story looked different than this one,
Yeah,
and
wait,
then
I thought I was a liability,
yeah,
dude.
right. Yeah, exactly. So then, when you actually make it, and then on the other side of it, like we are now, where you can like really look back and reflect, it is 100% like you have one you the more time you really spend on saying like, man, I'm getting gypped. It should be me. I'm the guy. Like just because, and it goes back to your video why I love it so much. Just because you work hard, just because you're doing well at that moment, does not mean you're the guy. Like this game owes nobody anything, and just because, and
That's
as
right,
bad as it
bro.
sounds, just because you do well in the minor leagues, and just because you work real hard, just because you have good makeup, it guarantees you nothing. You have to do it with no guarantees, right? Almost to the point where it's like, hey, if it doesn't work, at least I can sleep at night. At least I gave everything I got,
Yeah,
because there is no
for
guarantee.
sure,
None. Zero. No
for
criteria
sure.
either.
You
What is the
might
criteria?
you risk the farm, dude, and it's like, hey, if I make it, sick, but if I don't, I'm in trouble, bro. You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like it's
exactly.
the risk versus reward. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Exactly, but then it's like you get
Scary,
that
dude. It's
you
scary,
know,
man.
you step into that clubhouse for the first time, and literally the first minute you go, "It was all worth it." Everything. Every single
Yeah,
minute.
bro.
It was all for 1 minute,
Yes,
right?
1000%, bro. Oh, it's all worth it. Yeah, 7 years worth it, dude.
Yeah.
What? Dude, I love that. What in your mind, bro? What's like one mindset shift, knowing everything that you know now, being a player now, being on like the representation side? What's a mindset shift that you made or wish you made earlier in your career, bro?
I think the biggest for me is, I think amateur baseball to college baseball to then professional baseball, you're going from what 30 games in high school to 60 in college to then all of a sudden 150, 162 in pro ball. So there's a big factor of consistency over emotion
Mm,
in this thing, where like it is so emotional when you play less games because so much more rides on each at bat, on each game, on each series, on each week, because it's like, well, I only get one, they're playing 7 innings. So you're getting 3, 4 ABs compared to 5. You're playing three
mm,
days a week. So it's like everything is more magnified when you're younger. And that is a breeding ground for bad habits emotionally. Because then once you get to pro ball, and it's like you have, opening day every other day, right? Like a Tuesday in July with Kids Day, you're not even going to remember what you did in that game, at the end of the year. But in high school, you're going to remember the Tuesday game that you played against your
1000%.
rival because you only played 29 others. So I think the biggest thing for me is I wish I could go back and just be like, hey, the emotions are out of it. I'm going to feel it in the moment, but like at the end of the day, I got to wake up and do it again tomorrow, no matter what I did today. And then if I
Mm,
stack days come September, I'm going to be who I'm going to be, right? Like if I'm a 270
amen.
to 300 hitter, I'm going to be that every single year. If I hit 8 to 12 homers, I'm gonna be that at the end of every single year. If in your case, if I steal 50 plus, I'm getting 50 plus. No matter if I start the first month stealing 5 or 30.
Yeah.
So that's like the thing for me is like I wish I could go
Mm,
back because I would have taken so much pressure off to be like this is a process, right? I got to commit to it. I got to wake up, go through my work, professionally, and then and work towards the finished product because stats change every day.
1000%, bro. 1000%, dude. I love that right there, man. Everybody's journey is like different,
Mhm.
dude. I know the landscape is changing, dude. Everybody's journey is different. If you think you're behind, bro, chances are you're probably not.
Mhm.
And if you don't like something, if you don't like your situation, at the end of the day, brother, dude, if you're not sitting the bench if you're hitting 300 unless everybody else is hitting 400.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? If you don't like it, dude, play better.
you
You
have to.
know, that's probably, dude. I love everything that you're saying, man. I love everything that you're saying, dude. Boiling it down, dude. If I was gonna package it up, bro, I absolutely love that. I want to reiterate that, dude.
Mhm.
Because I think there's a lot of like underdog dudes that are going to be watching this that are kind of like they fit the profile of maybe like you and me. You and I is the correct English there, but like fitting that the small ball build, dude. Glove first maybe, and it's like, man, you might be behind, dude, but keep getting after it, bro. You don't like it, you don't like the situation, dude. Get the bunts down, right? Play
That's right.
better, work harder. I don't know, man. So it's crazy, dude. It's awesome to see, bro. I'd love to hear that too, bro. As I exited from baseball, I felt like I was 100% ready for it,
Mhm.
right? I spent all of my time like preparing off the field, trying to like think about what was next. I wasn't necessarily sure when my exit from the game was going to be, dude. Wasn't 100% sure what was next. We all share something like in common as baseball players. It's crazy to think about it, dude, but at some point, all of our careers are going to come to an end. And like whether you're prepared or not, bro, it is coming. And dude, the game will chew guys up and absolutely spit them out, dude. So what was that moment like for you, bro? When you had your exit from the game, kind of like transitioning into what was next with this whole, agent ordeal, dude. What was that all like for you, bro? What happened?
Let's see. I got DFA'd from Seattle and then got claimed by San Francisco, which was just a crazy story in itself because my wife gave birth in Sacramento. I was on paternity leave. I got DFA'd from Seattle, got claimed by the Giants, and ended up spending that whole summer in Sac. So I got to like see my son's first year, which was crazy, right? Like turned a terrible situation into a great
Wild.
one. Um, I think that like freedom helped me have the best year of my career, like on all levels. Unfortunately, that was the year the Giants won like 100 and something games and won the division the last day of the season. So like they had no need for anybody. So it just was wrong place, wrong time to have the best year, right? Um, so I knew I was like, dang, I can do this. Like my time with Seattle was really tough just because I was a defensive replacement, pinch runner. They had studs, right? Like I don't expect to have gotten
Yeah.
run over those guys. When I did get run, it wasn't good, so like I expected that to happen. But I was like, I'm gonna get this opportunity. Like I'm ready. I've never felt better. Poured into my mindset, mentality even more. So then I signed as a free agent, minor league free agent, the next year with Arizona. And, they told me some things, that weren't exactly true. Um, comp that with I was playing awful, it was a bad combo. Um, it's really hard. Like guys don't understand if you're not homegrown, they don't really have the investment in you. Like they do those
Mm,
guys they draft,
mm,
they want. And again, by no means do I think I should have got the opportunity over Alec Thomas or Corbin Carroll, Dom Canzone, like some of these absolute studs they had. But I thought there'd be a window in there where it was like, hey, I got a year before those guys come. And then they
yeah.
switched up their plan, right? Which again, no control over. And they wanted to bump those young guys. They were playing unbelievable. And so it's kind of like, hey, man, we're going to let you go. And at that point, I was like, dang, okay, so this is two teams in 2 years that have told me, hey, we're going to let you go. I signed as a free agent with Minnesota, go to St. Paul, which was awesome experience. Played
Yes,
terrible
dude.
there. No, I
Wild
didn't.
there, bro.
Yeah, yeah, it is. It is. I didn't play great.
Tough place
Didn't.
to hit.
Yeah, it is for sure. It is for sure. And so kind of that whole summer while I was with St. Paul, I was just like, dang, I just don't know if I want to jump AAA city to AAA city. I could probably do this till I'm 35, but like, is that fair to my wife?
Yeah.
Is that fair to my son? My family. Like, I've lived out of a suitcase since I was 21. I'm 29 at the time.
Mm,
Made it to the big leagues. I've had whatever 7 surgeries, ruptured my spleen. Like I was like, I'm just, mentally, I was like, I'm exhausted. And then the only mistake I made in this whole thing was I made that decision that summer that I'm done. Once the season's over, I'm gonna enjoy it. But I did not include my wife like I should have. Like it was like I'm done,
mm.
but I never had, the wherewithal to ask her, "Are you okay if I'm done?" And, she wouldn't have made me go if I didn't love it, but I just feel like I owed her that since she basically grinded with me?
Yeah, dude. Now that you say something, that's kind of the similar, like, with what Alyssa and I had kinda grinded
Really?
through. It was almost like she was it was abrupt, like, "Oh my god, we're done? Like,
Yeah.
we are done?" You know what I mean? It's like, "Yeah, yeah, we're out. We're outta
Yeah,
here. We're outta here, dude."
yeah.
It's crazy. It's a good way of looking at it, bro. That's a really good way of looking at it, dude. So you make your depart from playing baseball, dude, and now you are in the world of advising those players, representing them, dude. So you had joined the agent world, man. You are here with Boras Corp, dude. Scott Boras is obviously, like, everybody knows who Scott Boras is, man. Everybody knows what the Boras Corp is and what it's about, who they represent, dude. What shocked you the most, man, when you joined the agent world?
Um, I think, like, top to bottom, it's, you obviously, and we were in it, right? Like, we were on the team side, as players, and you see kind of like the hierarchy there. And then you kind of see guys that, like, you got to be honest, like, the coaches are trying to get to the big leagues just like the players are, just like the umpires are trying to get to, we're all trying to get to the same spot. So,
Yeah,
like,
dude.
yeah. So, as a player, I always thought, like, okay, the agent side, they are player advocates. When in reality, I find a lot more guys that are not player advocates than guys who are self advocates.
What? I would have never thought that.
Well, it's, I think it's tough because, we were talking about it a little bit earlier today, but just, I think there's a certain level of experience that you really need to have in order to help in certain moments. Um, and I think that's really only built by experience. I'm not saying you have to be a player to gain that, but you got to be in the trenches at some point as a player, as a coach, as a front office member. Like, you have to understand that what is necessary in certain moments. And, like, anybody can become an agent, right? You take the exam from the PA, they give you your certification. If you have a law degree, you can run contracts. Um, and really, you got to be a good dude, right? Like, if you're personable, you can have success doing it. But at the end of the day, that stuff gets you in the door. But the stuff that gets your guys to the point where they can have longevity and success and be durable, you got to have been in those trenches, because it's going to be blatantly obvious if you are not in those big moments. So, can you have success? Absolutely. Absolutely. But in those moments, and them, where it's like, I got to call my agent right now. But if your agent
Yeah,
has
dude.
ever been where you're in that moment, it's really hard to give advice or counsel past a personal relationship. And
Yeah.
that's the
Yeah. How am
hardest
I gonna
part.
buy in?
E Exactly.
How am I gonna buy in? Yeah, you haven't lived the shit that you're talking about. How do you know it's gonna be all right? You know what
Yep.
I mean? Like, how many other dudes have you advised? Like,
Exact
then what's your track record, bro? Like,
Yep,
it's crazy, man.
yep,
So, like, we see that relationship, bro. I was definitely like that, dude. When something, I had a question, or like I didn't like something, or something would go wrong, calling my agent,
yep,
right? And we all know that. We all see that,
yep,
bro. But that relationship's a little bit different behind the scenes, man. We only have so many interactions, whether that agent comes out during the season, to take you out to dinner, or maybe you catch the agent in the off season, you go visit headquarters, whatever the case is, man. What's something that agents do that players never see, but they should?
That's a great question. I can really only speak from what I've seen, through my own eyes. I think everybody obviously does things differently from, the number of employees to, the number of guys that handle the draft, who handles the draft. Some agencies, everybody does their own thing. Um, I think like probably the biggest is like in the art of negotiation in today's day and age, the teams really like like I think a lot of people have this thought of like my agent's over there standing their ground for me. I think a lot of people would be surprised that a lot of people in the game just don't have that power, right? And I think you see it more and more with kind of how the league's set up now of like trying to get these young guys to sign early extensions, and then if they get to free agency, that bombardment of like it's going to be a short-term deal. It's going to be a short-term deal, and so there's a lot of fear that goes into this thing. Um, and so I think the biggest thing is just like the teams, they have the money, right? Like they have the power. But like to have an advocate behind the scenes that's like very prepared, has resources to back up the claims that you're trying to get paid for, um, is the biggest thing. And then obviously protection, right? Like that's the biggest thing. For me, the protection piece is probably the most important because how many times did you sign something when you were playing and we're just like, I don't even think twice, blah blah blah. When if you have somebody that and they make clear of, hey, any document you have before you sign it, send it our way. So that goes back to the legal piece of it, where it's like, hey, let's redline this contract or whatever the document is. Hey, this isn't in your favor. This isn't in your favor. Let us go to work on your behalf. And most companies do that, right? Like most company, like I said, if you have your law degree, you know how to do that. So that's the biggest, right? Because that's tangible protection, and that's what players deserve is
Huge.
that protection piece.
Yeah, huge. Protect the dude. Absolute man. You want to feel like somebody's got your back, bro.
Hmm.
Right, dude. The baseball grind, whether it's minor leagues, dude, whether it's indie ball, whether you're playing overseas, bro, it's a freaking grind. If you feel like you have somebody that's got your back, it makes the trenches a little bit more bearable, dude. Dude, the representation is pure class, bro. Like huge, right? It's huge. Obviously, like the higher up you go, the more like necessary it becomes,
Yeah.
right? At some point it becomes necessary, man. You got to get some good representation behind you. I love that. Braden, dude, before we kind of run you through the last couple questions we got on like some advice to the
Hmm.
next generation, dude, I wanted to bring something to the forefront, dude, the For Mom Foundation, man. So obviously like we talk a lot about, having a purpose, and kind of having like a guiding light, something that you're fighting for, dude, something that inspires you, man, and just absolutely getting after it for a good cause, right? Man, why did you build the For Mom Foundation, man? What does it stand for, man, and why does it matter to you?
My mom got sick with Alzheimer's when I was in college. And you never really like as you're growing up, you never think about that day that you lose your parent, whether it be physically or mentally or um, however that transpires. I She got sick. Obviously, it was about I don't know, maybe a 4.5, 5 year decline to when she passed in 2019. But I mean, it was basically my whole minor league career. She was sick, so um, I always knew that like I obviously wanted to like volunteer and advocate for a cause off the field because I knew that there was a lot of perspective in that. Like you realize when I step off the field, I'm a human. Like my identity is not baseball. I think it kind of goes back to that point earlier where it's like when you're playing so little, in the grand scheme, whether it's high school or college, you're talking 30 or 60 days out of 365. It's easy to make that your identity, right? Like it's so important every single game. Whereas you get the Pro Bowl, you're playing so much, you almost realize like I can't make this. my everything, you know? And so that we developed the For Mom at the time charity, basically like raise money and then give it to like the Alzheimer's Association. There was a separate entity in Los Angeles called Alzheimer's Greater LA. I think now it's Alzheimer's Los Angeles. Um, and we would, disperse our money, kind of there. But then we realized that the area we want to target was the area we struggle with the most, which was caretaking. Like my dad is a caretaker, assumed two jobs. It almost affected him physically even more, because he was going to the ER with panic attacks and gained weight because there's so much stress. And so we created a grant program and then created our own 501(c)(3) where we could raise our money and then disperse it through disability funds to different families who are going through different things. And we're a small charity. Like we don't do huge numbers. We do a couple events per year. We really have a great community of people that support us. And we've been able to grant three families that have been going through stuff. To actually, all three have lost all three of the individuals that they were caring for. And so to like kind of go through that again and like see, one of them was a father of four, three of them under 10, won't be able to see their his daughter walk down the aisle and go to prom with his sons. And so it's like you kind of like immerse yourself in this on a level that is more than just like, let me throw money at a problem and feel good about it. You're actually like walking with them, crying with them, talking with them. And so like that's been like the most fulfilling part, is obviously we don't have a cure for this thing and it's probably going to be a while because the brain's so complex, to really understand. But to be able to just like help, with most basic things, care, groceries, school, bills, sports equipment, the stuff that adds up. I think Alzheimer's is like 100,000 per year to be a caretaker. So it's like, I don't know too many people that make enough to have that be an expense. So, like I said, we're small, but just even to make a dent, is something that's very fulfilling and kind of gives, like I said, gives you perspective of what's important.
Absolute, dude. Absolute. We're gonna link down below the For Mom Foundation, man. Check that out. Consider helping out, man. That's an awesome cause, dude. I love it, bro. Appreciate you opening up, elaborating a little bit about that, man. Awesome cause, dude. Love to see the work, obviously, as we were coming up together with the Mariners, dude. The events you guys were putting on, dude. It was cool. The Mariners buying in, man, as well. I feel like there was some good buy in there. At least it seemed it, right?
Mhm.
On the outside, to me, it looked like. Dude, so closing here, man. Before we get out of here, Braden, I'm extremely grateful, dude, for the time and kind of like opening up about the journey, dude. If you could go back and give some advice to 25-year-old Braden Bishop, dude, what would it be and why?
Man, I think the biggest thing is it just goes back to what I do on the field is nothing compared to what I'm going to do off it. Like I'm going to be a human much longer than I'm a baseball player. And so like start impacting people right now at 25 years old, And obviously my situation allowed me to kind of impact people a little bit. But I mean, you're talking about, like I go back and I look at the monotonous stuff, right? Like being a teammate every day. Like you have a chance to affect somebody every day with how you carry yourself, how you speak, what you're about, how you pick people up, how you serve people, the clubbies, how do you treat them, the trainers, how do you treat them, the stadium workers, how do you treat them, right? That's small. Your family, how do you treat them? I think the character piece, if you let it, the game will build you into character that can't be beaten, right? Like you're gonna fail so much. You're gonna get beaten down so much. You're gonna feel at moments like it's not gonna work out. And then you somehow find a way over that mountain. And like that's massive character building. Because then once you're spit out into life, you're like, man, there's nothing that will come my way that I can't get over. There's nothing that comes my way that I can't, serve my way through or, lift the people up around me. I'm in a bad situation. I'm going to make it better. And I think that'd be like my biggest thing for me because, yeah, I could give myself baseball advice all day, right? Like, oh, I wish I would have struck out less or not put as much pressure on myself that I needed to hit this, or that. But end of the day, I didn't think I'd be done playing at 29 either. So for me, it's human. It's human.
Makes a ton of sense, dude. One of the things that I take with me, bro, like that you said to me, I remember, I think I was going through like a really shitty slump, dude, like a really tough patch. I remember you telling me, man, it's never going as bad as you think it's going. Like no one ever sees it as bad through your lens as you see it, right? It's never going as bad as you think it's going, and it's never going as good as you think it's going,
Yeah,
dude.
it's true.
Right? You just had that spotlight syndrome a little bit, dude. I remember you telling me that, and I remember breaking out of a slump like shortly thereafter, bro. I never had looked at it like that. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? It kind of puts it into perspective a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I forgot that. But I mean, I remember like thinking those things of like, it clicked for me one day when I wasn't playing that day, and at the end of the day, I go, "Man, I can't even remember what anybody did." Like, I was watching the game, and I couldn't tell this player what he did. I couldn't tell this player what he did, and I was watching. So then I started thinking like, "Wait a minute. So if I don't even know and I'm actually, like, paying attention to the game, why do I think everybody's looking at me like, 'Dude, he went over 4 again with 3 punchies?'" So then it kind of put, like you said, it puts in perspective of like, man, we all live in our little worlds, right? And so if our own teammates couldn't even tell us what we do, you think the fans really care? What you did?
No,
No
dude.
chance.
No, dude. What?
Yeah,
No chance, man.
yeah.
No chance, dude. So, Braden, man, before we get out of here, I got one more question for you, man. What's next for you, dude? So what's on the docket? Obviously, like, man, you're into like charitable, doing good, right, with your platform, with your time, dude. You made it to the big leagues, bro. You're working for the number one, shoot, the number one sports agency,
Mhm.
right? And like in baseball or like I think in sports, dude, which is absolutely crazy, man. Like what's next, man? Like what's going on, dude? The mission, the player, the work, like what's happening next, bro?
I mean, definitely on the charity side, like seeing these families when you can like offer help, and they come to you in one of their most vulnerable moments. Like that's something that really drives me. So, like, I really wanna keep hammering away at that and, continuing to raise money. Like I said, we're a small charity, so, like, our impact is tiny. So, like, hopefully, like, through the years, just chipping away, like, our team over there, doing good work and, hearing people's stories, like, really going out in the community, like, seeking people out, to be vulnerable enough to ask for help. I'm excited about that. I think we could really do some good things there. And then, I think one of the things like after, and you might feel the same way. I'd love to hear yours too. Is when I finished, right, like walked away, I'm done. I had no idea what was next. No idea. And like I'm close to my degree, right? But I also was like, man, like going back to school right now, 29 with a kid, I was willing to do it, planning on doing it, and then all of a sudden it was like, boom, this opportunity came up in the region that I live. So I can cover, where I'm at, which is obviously a great baseball area. So I think the biggest thing for me
Yeah,
and
dude.
looking what's next is like I have a vision, right, a long term vision of like impact. I want to serve. I want to be a great husband and father and son, and grow with the people I'm around in my community. But I think the biggest thing is like having like this blind faith of like, I don't really know what's next, but I know that I'm doing the work to be ready for whatever that is. And like being open minded enough to like, if it, if that comes up, like I'm ready to capitalize. So, I'm just, I think the biggest
I
thing
love
is
it.
like being present, right? Like I'm happy where I'm at. happy with the players I get to serve and walk with through their journey, even though they don't know how brutal it's about to get, but I do. Like that's the best part for me.
100%. I love that, brother. I love that, dude. Why I appreciate you being here, man. I appreciate the time, dude. Letting us run you through the gauntlet of questions, man. Looking forward to getting you back on again soon, dude.
Whenever you need me, I'm here. I've been waiting years to get on this.
I love that, bro. We're gonna have to run it back soon, man. Obviously, like, dude, you didn't just survive the system, dude. You flipped it, right? You turned the worst parts of the game like into fuel, right? And you're using it to serve people, dude. You're making people better in the representation aspect of the game. I absolutely love it, dude. That's what the nine holes about, man. So I appreciate you pulling back the curtain, dude. We'll absolutely run it back again soon, man. Looking forward to getting you back on.
Me too. Love it. Hey, if there's no better two 9-hole hitters than you and I.
Amen, brother. Amen, brother. No kid.
No.
Appreciate your time, dude. I appreciate everybody tuning in to this episode of the Nine Hole Podcast. We will catch you guys again next time. Keep grinding.